It says, what does your mom think about you and Alyssa's relationship? How did you raise such good and polite boys?
Oh, that's a nice question. Thank you. I think 3 out of 4 of them are. Just kidding, Colton. Just kidding. I don't know. First of all, they're good-natured. They are good boys. I think the biggest thing that Greg and I have talked about that was so important to us is that they learned to say thank you, and they learned respect. And so I think one thing I get all the time is that your boys are super respectful and they are very grateful for things. And that makes me so happy because I do feel like that's something that, right, that Greg and I made sure as parents we wanted. I remember, we never let them switch teachers because you're going to have to get along with a lot of people throughout your life. And so I was never one of those moms. Train.
Pause.
I was never one of those moms who was calling the school and getting out of class. And you know what? I only regretted that twice. And I think they both were with Dallin. But I think he learned hard things, and he learned that he could get along with people that maybe they weren't the same. So there's that. And then I remember him going to 7th grade, and we went to orientation, and we were going into this one teacher's classroom, and he's like, I don't want her. I heard she's mean. And I'm like, just... kill her with kindness. Just be grateful. And I remember she kind of like barked at me. She was mean, and I was like, we just laughed when we left the classroom, and I just said, just be nice to her. And then when I went to parent-teacher conference, I said, I'm Dallin Johnson's mom, and she was like emotional. Like I just remember like she put her hands there, and she was just like, I love that boy. And she said, do you know that he comes to me every day, and in the most sincere way, he tells me thank you. And I went from table to table with these teachers, and every single one, I loved going to parent-teacher conferences for Dallin. First of all, he was a straight A student. But second of all, I had teachers that would get emotional over that. Greg's a teacher. So that was another thing is like, you be grateful for these teachers that are taking their time to come and to teach you. And you make sure you never leave that classroom without them knowing that you're grateful. And it's not just a, hey, thanks. It's a, you look them in the eye and you tell them you're thankful. So I think that those are just 2 big things that Greg and I focused on. I also think that there is a fine line between kids need boundaries. They do. They need rules. They can't just have these open rules. They need boundaries, but they also need lots of love. Yeah. And you know what? Dallin's our first, and I think we failed at a lot of things, and because he's so awesome, he was able to compensate for that. But those really were just kind of what we decided as parents, trial and error on a lot of things, but those were definitely things that I feel like that we were good at teaching the boys, and they were good at learning them, so we got lucky.
That was probably the earliest thing that I really remember, like being burnt into my brain, was say thank you to your coaches, your teachers, your piano teacher, which was my grandma, like everyone who puts time and effort into you tell them thank you. And I remember with the story that she would tell, I sat in the front seat closest to the door, and I would walk around and say thank you at her desk and then go out of the class last. And it obviously paid off. And she liked me a lot more. She wasn't mean. And so that was something that I think it goes back to the tradition thing. I'm going to put it in tradition because I think that saying thank you and showing someone gratitude is so important.
Yeah, I remember
I learned that.
I remember in high school even taking thank you notes to my teachers, and they would be shocked.
Yeah.
But my parents must have taught me that too. So
thank you goes a long way.
Hey, do you have any juicy questions?
Juicy question. All right, this question is a good question. I was on a mission, and this is a question that's asked a lot. It's I'm curious, is there or what's the difference between Christians and Mormons? Okay. Can I answer this one?
Yes, please do.
All right. It's the same thing. So Mormons, we get the nickname Mormon after the Book of Mormon. And the Book of Mormon is another volume of Scripture comparable to the Bible. and they both testify of Jesus Christ. The Bible is records from people over in Jerusalem and on that side of the world, and the Book of Mormon is records from people who are on the American continent and their dealings with Jesus Christ. And so together, they testify of Jesus Christ. And so ultimately, our real name is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And his name is in the name of the church, Jesus Christ. And we are 100% Christians. Mormon is just a nickname that the world is given because we read out of the Book of Mormon and the Bible. So hopefully that makes sense.
Perfect. Thanks for explaining that.
All right, this one is about Liz.
Lots of questions about Alyssa.
It says, what does your mom think about you and Alyssa's relationship?
So I think obviously you've watched kind of the story unfold and how close we've gotten with Alyssa. I watch how Alyssa makes Dallin feel and how happy she makes him. And I think, when I was growing up, I always prayed for a boy. And it was the boy that I would marry. Like, I would always constantly pray and think about and wonder about who he was and praying that he would be a good man. And obviously I got one. And then those prayers changed once I started having these boys, and I started praying for girls. And I started praying for the girls that my boys would someday date and marry. And, Dallin and Alyssa are having lots of fun dating, and the qualities I see in her is everything that that you pray for. And does she love my son? Does she make him happy? Does she let him be him? Does she, does she encourage him to be a better version of himself? And those are all things. And it was interesting to watch. Like, a lot of people will say things went really quick with Alyssa, and I agree. Like, we've had these discussions. But there's no denying that there just was an immediate connection between them. And those are things you pray for. You don't wish those things away. You are grateful and you pray for them. So I love Alyssa so much. I love that we got 7 months of Alyssa time without Dallin around. Like, no offense.
I'm grateful for it too.
So we got 7 months where we just really got to know Alyssa and love Alyssa, and without, her and Dallin running off, and just, it was special time for us. And so I'll always be grateful for that. But I have never seen him so happy than when he's with Alyssa. So as a mom, that makes my heart happy.
That's sweet.
So
that's sweet.
Anything else?
All right.
To say the yes for
loaded question. Did she or your dad tell you about
the birds and the bees?
Intercourse.
Don't use that word.
Why?
That was probably the word to use, so I don't know why I feel comfortable, but okay. We did. But the best part is that we had a great discussion with Dallin. How old do you think you were? 7? Here's the thing, when it's your first child, they seem so much older than what they are. And so pretty much he seemed like a teenager when he was 7 to us, because we had these other little ones.
And I guess I hung out with 60-year-olds.
And we also wanted to make sure he started commenting on things that, yes, true. Yeah, he heard a lot of things around the adults. But he would comment on things, and I was someone who I didn't want my kids to ever learn from other kids or from other people. Like, I wanted to have that open discussion with him so that he would want to come to us. So Greg and I sat down with him when he was 7, and he was just like, like, he's just like, okay. And we're like, well, that was easy. Okay. And then, like a year later, we stopped at a store, and Greg ran at a store, and Dallin kind of asked me a question, and it had been like a year, and he asked me a question, and so I kind of like refreshed on the subject, and I just remember his jaw. He was just like, are you serious? Like, he almost started crying. He's like, that is disgusting. And it was then that I realized that the reason why he didn't react that way when he was 7 was because he didn't have a clue what we were talking about. And Greg and I were like, we got this. We handled that one awesome. But I will never forget, like, where he was standing in our car and just, like, the look on his face of just, and then he didn't really want to even talk to us. He was just like, I don't want to talk to you guys. Like, he just could not believe, like, that is how he came to life. So
I still don't want to believe it.
Okay, next question. a funny one?
That's probably pretty good, right?
Okay. All right. Well, thanks guys for watching our video of Dallin and his mom. It's been fun. Thanks for being with me today and taking care of me. So he's my buddy. He's my first original buddy, and I hope he'll forever be my buddy. So that's one thing is that I know he has to grow up. I know he has to move on with life, but I hope that we can still do our dates every once in a while and still be buddies because he has always been my buddy. So anyways, okay.
Thanks guys. Later.
Bye.